Today I'm doing something a little bit different. I'm going to tell my journey when it comes to double bass drumming and how I got where I am right now. I've had quite a journey with it. There's been a lot of ups and downs, and that's the reason why I want to share my journey. So maybe some of you watching this could not do the same stuff that I did when I was practicing my double bass. Let's just dive right into it. Like a lot of people, I've always wanted to be able to play really fast on my feet. Since I was quite young, in my early teens, I really wanted to be able to play really fast. For example, like Joey Jordison from Slipknot, he was a big inspiration, and I really wanted to be able to get the technique down to play really fast. But it never really seemed to work out. I couldn't really get it down. I couldn't understand what I was doing wrong, why I couldn't play really fast on my feet. I really felt like I had tried everything, and it just didn't really seem to work. And what I had done is that I feel like here is also something that a lot of people do when they want to learn to play really fast, is that I go on YouTube and I look at a few tutorial videos on how to play really fast and how the technique looks like, and I'm like, oh, that seems pretty easy. Let's start working on it. And then I work on it for a few days, and then it's out of my mind. I don't ever come back to it ever again. It's out. And that happened to me a few times, and that's basically the reason why when I was young I didn't get good at double bass, because I didn't practice it. Well, what made me practice then? What I needed, it was a goal. I needed a push. I needed something where I would actually really need it. And what happened is that in the spring of 2021, we decided with my band to go and record our first ever album. And I knew that, okay, in these songs, we have quite a lot of fast parts where I would have to play fast on my feet. But so far, I didn't really care, if I'm just honest, because when we were practicing, my thought process was like, yeah, you can't even hear it because there's such a big volume anyway. But now when we go to the studio, I can't go there and just floop around because it will sound like shit. So this was the changing point. I knew that this is my chance to finally learn how to play fast on my feet. This is my chance to learn the foot technique. And I knew that if I don't do it now, I don't know if I will ever be able to do it, because before it, I've had a lot of moments where I'm like, I don't know if I don't learn the foot technique, I don't know if I'm going to be playing drums anymore, because it's such something. It has always been such a big part of, for example, mellow drumming, that I really wanted to be able to get it down, but I never really had a concrete reason to where I would actually need to use it. But now, since we booked the studio to the December of the same year, I knew that, okay, this is my chance now to finally learn this technique. So that's what I did. I started practicing. How I kind of understood what I had to do is that I stumbled upon this instructional video by Alex Rudinger. I will link it in the description so you can check it out if you want. And there he basically shows his foot endurance practice routine, and something kind of clicked in my mind when I was watching his technique, and I understood what I kind of have to do. And basically it's for example, when you're feeling stressed, you kind of bounce your foot up and down, and that's basically the technique. Then what I did is that I went on my kit and I put on a metronome and I looked up the tempo where my foot is naturally doing the twitching motion. It was around 170, I think. And what I did is that I just put the metronome on and I just sat there and I tried to lock it in. I tried to lock my feet in with the click. And after about 10 minutes, I got a bit of a result. It wasn't anything great, but it still was a new step for me. And at that moment, I realized that, okay, if I'm going to keep doing this every day, or at least almost every day, I'm going to learn this technique. And that's what I did. From that moment on, I really kept practicing. I did almost every day for under half an hour. I focused on having a click on, and I tried to lock my feet in with the click. And after a while, actually I started to get results. That was really, really motivating. And now after I kind of started to get it down, and my feet started to lock in with the click. Then autumn came, and I kept working on the songs. I kept focusing on the fast parts, and I got pretty good at it. What happened though is that the starting points, when I start a faster double bass section, and what happened is that I already started playing faster one bar before the actual section, because I just couldn't get the starting and stopping motion correct. But it was kind of there, so I kept going. And at the same time, in the autumn, I also was a part of a project where we played Dimmu Borgir songs as a tribute. And those songs are the fastest shit I've ever had to play. It was insane. And I really had to work on my foot technique there also, in combination with the studio then, to be able to play those really fast parts. And I just kept focusing on the really fast parts, and I got pretty good at that. But here we come to the first big downfall, so to say, is that because I had been focusing on practicing really fast, I lost all of the middle tempo areas. So I had an enormous gap. I had a gap from 120 BPM, 16 notes, to 180 BPM. I couldn't play anything from that range, nothing. My feet just wouldn't work. Not even at 120 BPM, which is relatively slow. I just couldn't do it. My feet wouldn't work. So I was kind of screwed, because the album we were going to record, in quite a lot of the songs we had some parts, some sections that were in these tempo areas, and now my feet wouldn't work because I'd been practicing on getting the faster parts good. So I was kind of stressed there, and what I had to do then is that I had to be a bit more creative then, and try to somehow play the parts in a different way but still sound like a double bass section. And I'm pretty proud of what I came up with, but of course it's not how I originally wanted to play it, but I'm still really proud of it. And the parts are pretty creative then, now when I look at it, and I'm very proud of the album, and we managed to record everything locally. And after the studio, I was like, okay, now I have to work on getting back in shape with the slower sections, because I can't live like this. Because so many songs are in that tempo area, 120 to 180 is a huge gap. There's gonna be a lot of songs in this tempo area. I just can't ignore it totally. That just won't work. So I really had to I knew that I really have to work on these tempo areas now. So what I did is that I kept on working on those tempos, and I got better at them. But then we go to the second downfall, is that the opposite happened to the first downfall, is that I could play a bit of the slower stuff now, but then the fast stuff was gone, because I hadn't focused on the fast stuff, because I was focusing on the slower stuff. So that was fantastic. Not really. So what I finally started doing from that moment on is that I started working on all of the tempo areas at once, and I didn't leave anything out. So what I started doing is that I play around 5 minutes each in every tempo, from 120 to 210, which is my goal. And I do it in groups of 10. So I go 120, 130, 140, blah, blah, blah. And then I try to work on each tempo to be sure that no tempo area gets less attention than the other. And I kept doing that, and I kind of got it down. I was able to play in almost all tempo areas now last summer, and that was really great. I was really, really happy about that. But then the autumn came, and something happened again, and I kind of lost all of the slower areas again. And I was kind of like, oh no, not again. What am I doing wrong? And I had to go back on my roots and try to really dissect what is the technique that I have to learn now for the slower part. And here we come probably to the biggest breakthrough I've made with my foot technique. And funnily enough, that is a 1 minute Instagram video. with that video, it changed my entire drumming, basically. And that video, it's a video by Martin Jovanovic, who is an instructor. He has the Drum Technique Academy, and they specialize in metal drumming. I highly recommend checking out the academy. I'm not part of it myself. I just follow Martin on Instagram and YouTube, and he also puts out insanely valuable and good material just on his Instagram and YouTube, for example. Just free lessons, free material. And from one of these videos, I understood what I had to do now. I understood what the technique is for the slower tempos. I understood it. I will link the video in the description also, so you can check it out. So what he basically said is that what I had thought about in the very beginning when I started practicing my foot technique is the bouncing motion. When you feel, for example, stressed, and then you just bounce your foot, you find the tempo where your foot works the best, and then you start perfecting the tempo where your foot naturally does the twitching. And what he explained is that you should first find the tempo where it naturally twitches and then work your way down. So not start slow in this case, but start where it naturally twitches and then work your way down. So what I started doing is I tested it out a bit, and I realized that my right foot already automatically does it, and I can control it in every tempo on my right foot. But my left foot was the weak one, like it usually is for most people. Then I finally realized that, okay, if I'm gonna work on my left foot now, then it's gonna be fine. So I looked up the tempo where my left foot twitches naturally, which was 170. Then I kept working on my left foot individually. I worked on it until I could play just with my left foot, and with the click I could lock it in. After that I added my right foot, and then I worked on getting both of my feet locked in with the click. After 170 I moved to 160, and then I did the same thing. So I first worked on my left foot alone. I made sure that it works by itself on that tempo, and then I added the right foot, and I did that, and then I went down to 150, did the same thing, first left foot and then right foot, and then I did lastly 140. That's kind of it. And also something important to mention is that I, for example, used 3 different techniques. In really slow tempos you use the full leg motion, and then when it comes to middle tempos, which is a really annoying and frustrating tempo area, is the ankle technique. And this is the technique that I've been talking about now, that I found on Martin's Instagram video. This is the technique which I use from tempos to 140 to 180. Also, for the third technique, for the really fast stuff, I use the swivel technique. And now when I finally got it down, I'm so happy that I finally managed to get this technique down. It's so freeing and amazing to be able to play basically whatever I want. And I know this video is not about playing really fast. My point in this video is that when you want to learn to play fast, you really have to work on every tempo area, because every tempo area matters. And you don't want to end up having an enormous gap in your feet where you can't control your feet and where you can't play anything. That's not fun. So this video is just to let you know that you really have to work on every tempo area and don't leave anything out. And it really takes a lot of work if you want to get good at practicing anything, actually. After you do a certain thing for a while, it starts to get easier and you start to understand it and you start to get it down, and it starts to go into the muscle memory, and then you start getting good at it. And it's just about repetition and repetition. It just might take a lot of time, but if you're patient and if you have a goal and you have the will and the energy, then you can absolutely do it. Anyone can do it. And I'm gonna upload a video besides this one where I'm going to be playing and showcasing my technique on every area from 120 to 210. So then you can see what my feet look like when I play on those areas. And what I wanted to accomplish with this, to tell you that don't give up and keep going and keep practicing whatever you're practicing and currently working on. It doesn't have to be double bass drumming, just something else. Practicing something really intensively is a journey. There's going to be ups and downs. There's going to be things that go wrong perhaps, but in the end it doesn't matter. If you keep going, keep pushing through, you're going to get there. You have to have the willpower and the right mindset and the interest to learn something, then you will get there. I believe in that. And thank you for watching. Bye.